Hello, and thank you for joining me for this session on Twitter for B2B. My name is Paul Gillen. I've been on Twitter since 2007 and have learned a lot of the ins and outs of developing a steady follower base and also interacting with people in a productive way. And I hope to share some of those with you in this session. Twitter is the most enigmatic social network in many ways. It's very simple and easy to use, and some people use it a lot. And in fact, to the uninitiated, Twitter looks a lot like chaos. It's millions of people all talking at once, and many of them about topics that seem unimportant to you and me. They talk 24 hours a day in all kinds of languages, and at first blush, it seems like they mostly share what they had for breakfast. Yet we consistently hear from marketers, particularly B2B marketers, that Twitter is one of the most consistently effective tools they have to drive awareness and traffic. So how can that be? Well, the secret to Twitter is to organize that chaos. It's to filter out the noise and focus on just the messages you want to see. The secret is also to use Twitter to find people you want to meet, because this is the world's flattest social network. You can connect with people on Twitter whom you would never be able to meet through other channels. And in this tutorial, I'll show you some ways to do that. Twitter is a microblog, which Wikipedia defines as a form of blog that, quote, allows users to exchange small elements of content, such as short sentences, individual images, or video links. One of the key attributes of microblogs is that they're short, they're generally very easy to use, and they're intended for the fast sharing of observations and experiences. Blogs were actually originally used in that way, but they have evolved into more of a long-form tool over time. Microblogs are really kind of a throwback to early blogging. One of the appeals of microblogs is that they're so simple and quick to use. Many people feel intimidated by blogging because they believe they have to formulate long essays each time they post an entry. In contrast, a message can be sent on a microblog service in minutes or even seconds. That's one of the reasons you see so much useless information on microblogs, as a matter of fact. But it's also a virtue because people share information on microblog services that they would never commit to a long-form blog post. Here are some examples of other microblogging services. Some of them you've probably never heard of, but others do have significant memberships, including Tumblr. What they all have in common is that they make it easy to share things quickly and to repost other people's work, and that's a very important factor. Incidentally, Twitter's famous 140-character message limitation was not the result of some carefully formulated calculation. Twitter was originally intended to be used mostly over cell phones, and their text messaging limit is 160 characters. The founders of Twitter set aside 20 characters for the username and allocated the rest to the message, and that's how we got to 140. You can't possibly monitor everything that's happening on Twitter, so use devices to filter content to the topics and people that interest you. You can use the analogy of fishing in a stream. You're never going to catch all the fish, and you don't even try. Depending on the bait, hooks, and casts you use, you'll catch different fish. Similarly, the best way to use Twitter is to create different streams of information that align to topics that interest you. So what's the big deal about 140 characters? Well, as I explained earlier, the limitation is actually a historical curiosity. But as technology has made it possible for people to send longer messages, Twitter has resisted lifting this limitation. In fact, if Twitter ever did increase the limit, I would expect there would be a backlash from Twitter users, because the limited space forces people to be more creative about how they say things. Twitter users invented some wonderful creative ways to fit their thoughts into a tiny space. And here you see just a couple of them. The use of numerals instead of written numbers, mnemonics like the use of the letter R for the word R, and omission of letters that aren't essential to understanding words. This is just a few of the ways that people manage to squeeze more content into a limited space. I'll also address the question of people tweeting about what they had for breakfast. Sounds silly, right? It actually has value. The details of our lives, even the mundane ones, create potential touch points that lead to deeper relationships. For example, you may be able to connect to people you want to meet by discovering that you have a shared affinity for arena football, or wine, or Starbucks lattes. People don't share this kind of information in many places, but they do share it on Twitter because it's easy to do so. Choosing whether to share personal information is an individual decision, but companies are increasingly encouraging their employees to selectively relate details of their personal lives to others, with the thinking that it generates more opportunity for touch points and that it deepens relationships. The New York Times Magazine published a wonderful description of social networks and Twitter way back in 2009. A selection from that article said Facebook users didn't think they wanted constant, up-to-the-minute updates on what other people are doing. Yet when they experienced this sort of omnipresent knowledge, they found it intriguing and addictive. Each individual bit of social information is insignificant on its own, even supremely mundane. But taken together, over time, the little snippets coalesce into a surprisingly sophisticated portrait of your friends' and family members' lives, like thousands of dots making a pointless painting. The point is that these little details about our lives all create opportunities for us to reach out and touch other people and for them to find us. Twitter is probably the most versatile social networking tool. It has applications in all of the areas listed here. Creating a distinctive voice and content stream contributes to brand image. There are many Twitter accounts about jobs in different fields, for example, for different companies. Research has consistently revealed that Twitter is one of the top traffic sources to business websites, particularly to B2B companies. For professional networking, Twitter is probably the most effective tool you can use to strike up conversations with individuals you want to meet. For publicity, it's a natural complement to press release services, and it's actually one of the best ways to find out what's going on in the world. Consider an important news event. You can go to CNN or ABC News and get one perspective on the news, or you can go to Twitter and get guidance from many people who are following the same event, and they'll point you to the best information sources that they find. Salespeople use it for prospecting by mining the Twitter stream for keywords such as, "Can anyone recommend computer printer?" Twitter helps you sustain peer relationships, too, by occasionally reaching out and touching people you haven't been in communication with for a long time. It's fast and easy. It's also good for monitoring competition by tuning into what they're saying on their Twitter accounts, as well as what others are saying about them. Search optimization is a little harder to determine, but research has indicated that tweets do factor into search engine rankings. And because Twitter works well on any device, even text-based phones, it's a good way to post updates and retrieve information from the field. When you join Twitter, you're asked to fill out your profile. You only get 160 characters for this, so choose them wisely. Tell people what you do, but I also recommend giving them a hint of something personal, like Jane has done here with her references to being a foodie. You can also include a link in your profile, and I recommend that you link to an extended profile on a website so that people can learn more about you. The basic Twitter metrics are tweets, which are the messages you send, the people you're following, and the people who follow you. You can review your tweet history at any time by clicking on the tweets link. When you visit a Twitter profile page, you have the option of following that person or adding them to a list, which is something we'll get into later. Your individual tweets are listed below your profile. A tweet is simply a message, but you can also choose to view the conversation around it and also the associated images and photos. When you upload multimedia items to Twitter, they actually go to third-party websites, which are then linked to from individual tweets. However, if you look at those tweets on the twitter.com website, Twitter will pull them all back together for you. After setting up your profile, the next step is to start following some other people. And that's because people are unlikely to find out about you unless they see that you're out there first. Unless you're the Pope or the CEO of IBM, you're unlikely to build much of a following without generating activity and awareness from other people, and that means following them. So here we see the result of a Twitter search on the term big data. Note that the searcher chose to use the hashtag big data rather than search on those terms. And that's because a hashtag search is more likely to return results of people who care a lot about big data. When they apply a tag to their comments, they're essentially saying that this is a topic of special interest to them. That's as opposed to people who just happen to mention the words big and data consecutively. We'll talk more about hashtags later because they're a very important part of organizing the Twitter stream. Twitter will show you individual tweets, but it'll also show you people, videos, and images that use the term you search for. It's a pretty good bet that the profiles you see will be people who share your interest in big data. So this is a good way to find people to follow. Also, as you go along, Twitter will continuously recommend other people you might want to follow based upon the content of your own tweet stream. You can use Twitter through the twitter.com website. But that's actually not the most popular or preferred method. There are a variety of third-party readers that enable you to filter your Twitter stream and display multiple filters on the same screen. TweetDeck and Hootsuite are two popular ones. As you use Twitter more, you'll increasingly filter Twitter activity by topic or lists of users. The advantage of dedicated readers is that they let you see a lot of different views of Twitter activity in one convenient place. Most readers also work with other social networks, so you can keep track of activity on, say, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+, and even some smaller social networks, and also post to multiple networks from a single place. If you use a mobile device, I also recommend installing one of the many free Twitter apps that basically do the same thing as the PC Reader apps, but in a smaller form. They're a little bit clunkier to use because of the small screen size, but they do provide some level of filtering, which is the key to using Twitter productively. One of the important ways of making Twitter work for you is to contribute something to the conversation every day. Mobile clients are useful in this respect because you can take advantage of downtime, waiting in line or standing on the subway platform to send a couple of tweets or to retweet somebody else's comments. The first thing you'll want to do is to see what people are talking about on Twitter. And here are 3 free services that let you do that. Monitor, which is on the left, is a basic keyword monitoring tool that continually pulls up the most recent tweets about a term you specify. TrendsMap, which is at the lower right, aggregates what people are talking about, and it groups those trends geographically. And by the way, Twitter does have a location component. When you sign up for Twitter, you can choose to share your geographic coordinates as part of any tweet if you want, and you can turn that feature on and off as you wish. Back tweets in the upper right will show you who has tweeted any individual URL, and this is particularly useful if you want to see activity around something you posted on your own website, for example. There used to be more services like this, but unfortunately many of them have died off because of the lack of a good business model, or because of Twitter's continuing clampdown on access to its data stream. Twitter launched with an open API, and many services started using that free access to Twitter content. However, as Twitter has had to build its own business model, it's increasingly restricted access to that information. So any of the sites that you use may suddenly go dark. On the other hand, new ones do continue to pop up all the time. Earlier I mentioned Twitter lists, so let's take a little bit deeper dive on that. We're going to start at the profile of Eric Anderson, who's an IBMer, who's assembled some great Twitter lists. If we click on the list option in Eric's profile, we see a collection of lists that he's subscribed to and that he's a member of. Lists are simply groupings of Twitter members that you can combine in any way that you want and then subscribe to all of their updates in a single column in your Twitter reader. We can see that Eric is a member of other lists that people have created that include people just like Eric. This is a good way to find people like Eric using the work that others have already done. If we look at lists that Eric has subscribed to, they include the lists that he's created, and we're going to focus in on the one called IBM Owned Accounts. Now this will give you a list of tweets that have been created by accounts that have an IBM brand. And there are about 500 of them in this list. We can also flip over to our Hootsuite client and follow Eric's list in a column. So this gives us a constant stream of updates from all of the accounts on Eric's list. When we refresh, we get the latest information from these accounts. So this is a great way to keep up with groups of Twitter members that have been assembled by others along thematic lines, and you could also create your own. So if we go back to Eric's list, we can scroll through and look at the individual tweets. We can also choose to see who are the members of the list, and this will give us profiles, not individual tweets. Once we have those profiles, we can follow individual accounts if we want. We can also add accounts to our own lists if we want. So you see this pop-up menu that becomes available to you. If you choose an account name and click the button, you can add that to your own list. You can see some that I've created here, or you can create a new list. Lists are a great way to tap into the work that other people have done. Listen for a while to get a sense of the culture and language of Twitter before you start posting your own tweets. The rule of thumb on Twitter, as in all social networks, is to add value to the community. If you simply promote your own agenda, you'll quickly see the growth in your follower count slow to a trickle. The more value you provide by pointing people to useful information, answering their questions, and helping to solve their problems, the more your social authority will grow and the more quality followers you'll gain. Here are some examples of the types of tweets that work well. Point people to good articles on the web, comment on other people's tweets, and acknowledge the useful advice of others by responding to them and retweeting them. The golden ratio I like to use is 9-to-1. For every one tweet you send promoting yourself, send 9 that promote others. If you keep this ratio in mind, you can get your personal agenda across without hitting people over the head with it and causing them to unfollow you. Consider your persona, and that's the online personality you want to display. You should always talk in a style that's comfortable to you, but what you choose to say and how you choose to say it will vary. People are more likely to follow you if you have a unique and appealing style. Consider these 2 examples on this slide. Guy Kawasaki has well over 1 million followers on Twitter. Nearly all of his content is selected from a site he runs called AllTop. He essentially cherry picks the most interesting and entertaining topics he can find, and then he writes intriguing teaser tweets that provoke people to want to find out more. Study his style. His messages are intended to get people to click on links because they have an interesting and provocative topic that makes you want to learn more. Skittles has a wonderful style for its market. It comes at ordinary topics from a completely new angle, and it uses wordplay to make us laugh at things we would never otherwise find funny. So, quote, "I believe that one day sea cucumbers and land cucumbers will finally put aside their differences." I think that's brilliant. Their style is similar to that of comedian Stephen Wright, if you're familiar with his work. And this can work in a B2B context as well. We've seen companies, B2B companies, that have done a great job of having fun with Twitter and creating dedicated followings of people who like to follow them just because what they do is so unusual. Whatever you do, always write in a manner that feels natural to you. But use Twitter to bring out your sense of humor, your playfulness, and even your sense of bizarre. Surprise people occasionally. Show them that you have multiple sides to your personality. Here are just 3 examples of Twitter users who have had life-changing experiences as a result of building creative Twitter personas. Paul Armstrong has built a following of more than 26,000 people for his Twitter persona, which is called "The Media is Dying." His Twitter fame helped him land a job of social media as head of social media for one of Europe's largest public sector consultancies. And that Twitter handle chronicles the decline of mainstream media, often in a funny way. A team of 16 publishing professionals collaborate on the satirical tweet stream Fake AP Style Book. And if you are a writer and you know the AP Style Book, it's sort of the Bible of news writing. This group, which has a very funny style to its Twitter feed, has amassed more than 300,000 followers, and they have a best-selling book as a result. And then maybe the most famous example is Justin Halpern, who began recording his father's off-color and often hilarious homespun wisdom on a Twitter account called, well, Stuff My Dad Says. 6 months and 140 tweets after he started it, he had 2.3 million followers and a TV show. Sirona Consulting has classified tweets into these 6 categories, and I like the approach they took. The most common tweets are informational, helpful, and informative. You'll want to use all of these styles occasionally, being conscious all the time of that 9-to-1 ratio. Make most of your tweets informational, helpful, or offbeat. Reserve those you tweets, which are ones that are just about you, for about 10% of your total. Really mix them up. Focus on using all of these different types of tweets to keep your Twitter stream interesting and to ensure that you're being helpful to other people on Twitter. Let's talk about retweeting, or RT. You'll see that those 2 characters pop up a lot. A retweet is simply a forward of somebody else's message, often with a comment of your own. To retweet a message, you simply click the retweet option on your Twitter client and either send or add a comment. Retweeting was invented by the Twitter community, not by Twitter itself, and it's become one of the most powerful ways to spread information. Basically, when you retweet something, you share somebody else's comment with all of your followers. That means that the original message gets bonus visibility, and the more the message is retweeted, the more other people have a chance to see it. Getting retweeted is one of the fastest ways to build visibility and audience on Twitter. If you say remarkable things that are retweeted by people with much larger followings than yours, some of those people who see it will choose to follow you. You can also ask for retweets from your own followers, although I wouldn't suggest doing that very often. When you retweet other people, you essentially pay them a compliment. That means they're more likely to follow you in return. I recommend that between 10% and 20% of your tweets should be retweets of other people's messages. And ideally, I recommend that you don't just retweet the message with no comment added. Add something to the front of the message that imprints your personal opinion or adds some value. All of the retweets in the examples on this slide do that, and it's a good way to move the conversation forward. So adding those personal comments like another gem or really listening or here's one is a way of adding your personal perspective and building value on top of the original tweet. You should create messages with the goal of having them retweeted. I recommend that you keep messages to about 120 characters whenever possible so that people can easily retweet them without having to modify them and edit them. A new syntax, in fact, has recently emerged called MT for modified tweet. This is a retweet in which the original message was modified, generally for length. MT is not nearly as popular as RT, but it's a good signpost to use if you need to notify people that you had to change the original message. Now let's talk about some things you should never say on Twitter. Never flame people or post tweets that use angry or insulting language. That should be obvious. I also recommend that you think hard about highly charged topics like religion, sex, and politics, particularly if you tweet on behalf of your company. These are topics that inspire a lot of passion, and they can potentially create enemies. If you're trying to build your Twitter following, then railing against a political party is a lousy way to do it. Don't give people reasons not to follow you. Don't share personal or confidential information, and keep in mind that it isn't always obvious what's dangerous to share. Stating on Twitter that you're on vacation with your whole family is the same as telling people that your house is empty. Think about what people can do with the information you share. Don't talk about things that could embarrass you, and don't complain about clients or colleagues. There's simply no upside to doing that. Don't spam people by sending the same tweet repeatedly. This is admittedly a bit of a moving target because there are no hard and fast rules for what is spamming. There's nothing wrong with sending the same tweet promoting an event once each day, maybe twice a day when the event is imminent. If you're sending it 5 or 6 times a day, however, you're on the verge of annoying people. Let me share a personal anecdote in this area. A few years ago, I was attending an unconference, and that's one where attendees create their own agenda, in this case by posting session titles on a big bulletin board for other people to attend. I thought it would be helpful if I tweeted the individual session titles as they were posted. I'm a pretty fast typist, so I was popping out session titles about every 10 seconds. After I'd sent about 50 of these tweets, I looked at my Twitter stream and found that people were shouting at me to please stop because I was clogging their activity feed. In fact, about 15 people unfollowed me immediately. I learned from that to be a good Twitter neighbor, you need to share the Twitter sphere with others. Don't overwhelm people with your own messages. URL shorteners are a fixture in the Twitter world. They take long web addresses and squeeze them down into just a few characters. Some of the services also provide additional value like link tracking and geo-targeting. At the top, you can see an example of how a link shortener can take a monstrously long URL and shrink it by over 90%. The most popular link shorteners are Bitly and Owly. Owly is the native shortener used in the popular Hootsuite platform. Both Bitly and Owly provide link tracking, which means you can check back later and see how many people shared your link. Bitly has the advantage of enabling you to customize your links with things like dates, site names, and campaign codes, and it'll show you how many people clicked on the link. Their reporting system is a little clunky to use, but it works pretty well if you don't have a large number of links to track. Here are just a few popular link shorteners with descriptions and their unique features. I recommend choosing a tool that you can embed directly in your browser toolbar. It's faster and easier to share web pages if you can do so with a single click. Small Business Trends asked a group of its readers who are Twitter veterans to share their tips for getting the most from the Twitter experience. You can download the document for free by clicking on the link in this slide or just searching for the title. Now, here are a few good ideas I picked out of that research. Follow people you're connected to on LinkedIn. LinkedIn offers members the option of including their Twitter handles in their profiles, and many people do so. If you follow people who are in your field of interest, they'll lead you to others you should also follow. Look at the lists they've created or the people who are following them, and chances are you'll find some good choices of people to follow. Mix it up. Don't always tweet about the same things. Surprise people with unexpected topics now and then. Do that in your profile as well. Show that human side of you. Keeping people off balance is one of the best ways to keep them interested. Add your Twitter handle to all of your online presences, including your email signature line and information about you on your website or blog. Make it a point to acknowledge or compliment at least a couple of followers every day by retweeting their messages or responding to something they say. If you focus on 2 different people each day, well, that's 500 relationships each year that you'll enhance through that small contact. Now let's turn our attention to hashtags, because they're a very powerful way to organize the Twitter stream as well as to build your own following. Hashtags are simply strings of text preceded by a # or hash symbol. This innovation was created by the user community, not by Twitter itself, and it's turned out to have great power. LinkedIn, in fact, now supports hashtags in its own updates, and Facebook has announced plans to adopt them as well. What's so special about a hashtag? Well, think of hashtags as a label that people apply to their own content. The geeky term for this is metadata, which is information about information. When people apply hashtags to their messages, they're in effect categorizing them. Many people monitor hashtags in the same way that they monitor keywords. The difference with a hashtag is that the person who applies it has made a conscious decision to label the content that way. Monitoring a hashtag gives you different results than monitoring a keyword. For example, let's take the word jobs. When someone applies the hashtag #jobs or #jobs to a tweet, it's usually because they have a job they want to fill. So if you monitor that hashtag on Twitter, you're much more likely to find available jobs than if you simply monitor the keyword jobs. You can create any hashtag you want, your own name for example, but the greatest value comes from using hashtags that are already commonly accepted. In this example, we see that the terms data governance and data quality are popular in the realm of information quality. That doesn't mean other hashtags can't be used, but over time, certain terms tend to float to the surface. Hashtags are a great way to listen to Twitter because they're an effective filtering mechanism. Monitor hash cloud computing, and you'll get a constantly flowing stream of news and opinion about that topic. They're also a great way to build your Twitter following because you can use relevant hashtags to get your message in front of everyone who's following that tag. That means that a lot of people who have never heard of you now have a chance to see your messages, reply to them, retweet them, and follow you. What's the optimal volume of hashtags to use in a tweet? I'd say 2 to 3 is about right. You do see tweets with as many as 10 hashtags in them, but those are nearly impossible to read. Kind of a hash spam. Focus on a few popular tags and use them regularly so that the people who monitor them will see your name turning up again and again. Let's move on to building your follower base, which is a topic most people want to hear about. We touched on some of these issues earlier, but I'd like to give you some practical tips you can apply right from the start. The way you get followers is by following others. There are ways to build your follower base quickly, such as following people who automatically follow anyone back who follows them. You can search for lists of those if you want. You can even buy followers. Search for buy Twitter followers on Google, and you'll find a thriving ecosystem of vendors who will sell you absolutely useless followers for as little as $4 per thousand. In my opinion, these services are a waste of time and money. You'll get names, but you won't get interaction, and interaction is what you're looking for. Start by following people you admire. Search for them, and then look at whom they follow. Look at what lists they're on. Chances are good that other people on that list share their interests. Comment upon and retweet their messages. When you share content they've produced, take the time to look up their Twitter handle so you can include it in your tweet. This may take you an extra 20 or 30 seconds on Google, but it means that they'll see the information you tweet about them. Everyone on Twitter tracks their mention stream, so you want your message in that valued space where others are sure to see it when you mention them. If they follow you back, and if they're people you really want to connect with, send them a thank you tweet for following. Respond to the questions they ask. Occasionally ask them questions. Very occasionally ask for a retweet, but don't abuse that tactic. When people do retweet you, Be sure to thank them. Attend and organize events. Reporting from events is one of the fastest ways to build your Twitter following. Set up your laptop or a smartphone and capture quotes from the keynote presentation, being sure to tweet them with the hashtag recommended by the organizer. People love to follow events on Twitter, and by reporting on what you're seeing, you're providing a service to the people who can't be there in person. The hashtag enables you to take advantage of the filter that people are already using to track the event. You'll find that people will start retweeting your messages and following you as you deliver them valuable information from the floor. I've seen my follower count grow by as many as 50 in just 1 hour by reporting a conference keynote over Twitter. You can also create Twitter-only events, which are sometimes called tweet chats. These are virtual chat sessions that are held around a hashtag. You can create your own event or take part in one of the hundreds that happen every week. I've given you a link here to a spreadsheet that lists many of them. Tweet chats usually last 1 to 2 hours, and they take place on a regular schedule every week or two. Participating in tweet chats that are relevant to your industry is another way to get your name in front of other people who share your interests, and that's the key to building followers on Twitter. There are even physical events that have their roots in Twitter. They're called tweet-ups, and they're often organized around another event such as a conference. You may be going to a user group meeting, for example, and decide to create a tweet-up for people in your area. Start telling people on Twitter to follow the hashtag, for example, #IndianaMSP, for instructions on where to meet. Others will retweet your message, and you'll often be surprised how many people will show up for your event. Let's look at 3 examples of B2B organizations that have done, I think, exceptionally well on Twitter. Sodexo Recruiters. Sodexo recruits most of its employees, and they hire about 5,000 people in the U.S. every year, recruits most of its people over social networks. And if you look at the Sodexo Careers section of their website, you'll see all the places they're active. Most of the company's 60 recruiters use Twitter and other social media to meet their hiring demand. Their focus is on building relationships and enthusiasm among prospective employees. They start conversations with people, they get to know them, they create connections on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and then they move them into the hiring funnel if that's appropriate. If it turns out that that person is not a good fit for Sodexo, they also know not to waste everybody's time with interviewing and the standard job prospecting process. The traffic to their careers site is up 182% in 2 years, and their job applications are up 25%. And meanwhile, they've cut their recruitment ad costs by $300,000. Essentially, they do almost no advertising anymore because their social channels are so active. The principal value they get from this is that relationships with the recruiters improve applicant quality. They also have a chance to develop enthusiasm among the prospective employees because they tell them a lot about working at Sodexo. The image of Sodexo as a progressive company appeals to young workers, and most of the people that Sodexo hires are at an entry-level management track and are in their 20s. Their recruitment costs also have been substantially reduced. As Carrie Noon, who was until recently the manager of marketing communications before moving into a new role, says, the human touch is essential. People know there's somebody behind the message and the photo. And you'll see that Sodexo's social media presences are full of images of their people. Constant Contact is another company that does a beautiful job on Twitter. Now, I included this content analysis in the pie chart because it's truly remarkable. Now, Constant Contact is an email marketing company. They use Twitter and Facebook as a primary customer support source. Twitter is used to deliver a constant stream of useful advice and facts about small businesses. And what they're really about is small business success, not just supporting email. Constant Contact sees itself as a business advisor, not just a service provider. I included this content analysis in the pie chart because I think it's remarkable. Constant Contact typically posts more than 50 Twitter messages in a day. So I did a random scan of 100 of them and categorized them by content type. What you see here is that 2/3 of them were helpful or informational. Another 1/4 were humorous or responsive, and just 9% were overtly promotional. So that's pretty close to that 9-to-1 ratio I spoke about earlier, remember? If you ran this analysis on the Twitter accounts of most B2B companies, you'd find the numbers are nearly reversed, with about 2/3 of the tweets being promotional. So what are the results? Well, Constant Contact increased its Twitter following 6-fold in the first year after it revamped its approach to Twitter. It now has more than 50,000 followers, and it's way ahead of any of its direct competitors. Just look at an example of a verbatim Twitter stream. Friday fun fact: in the time it took to read this tweet, 20 million emails were sent. Stat: 40% of consumers are going to turn to a competitor's site after a bad mobile experience. Did you know, on average, SMBs host between 13 and 14 events per year? How your click-through rates can help you create more effective email content. 72% of Americans believe that people who start small businesses are primarily responsible for their success. Do you agree? They're using all of those different types of tweets I mentioned in the earlier slide to great effect. They're sharing detail, trivia, they're asking questions, they're inciting conversations. Most of all, they're trying to help their customers become better at email marketing. And that's Constant Contact taking its business model beyond email to a new level. Finally, let's look at the CME Group, the former Chicago Mercantile Exchange. With more than 750,000 followers on Twitter, it has the largest following of any B2B company of which I'm aware. One of the reasons is that the CME Group started using Twitter early, before it was mainstream. It was easier to gain followers in 2006, 2007 than it is today. A partnership with StockTwits, which is a popular real-time investment discussion forum, helped to drive traffic, as did a broad-based effort by CME Group to promote its Twitter presence through press releases, speeches, and its website. So they launched their Facebook account in 2007 and later added Delicious, Dig, StumbleUpon, Twitter, and a corporate blog, in effect spreading their social footprint across many properties. About 80% of the Twitter content is about the marketplace and the economy, with the other 20% related to CME Group. This is very close to the 9-to-1 ratio I discussed earlier. Tactics that they use include profiling partners, traders, and other financial professionals who are active in the Twitter stream. And there's a method to this madness, because when they profile other people, they're recognizing them, they're catching their attention, and it's more likely that those people will follow CME Group and that their followers will also follow CME. But the more important reason is that the CME Group has positioned itself as a major news provider in the commodities markets it serves. Its Twitter stream features constant updates on news of interest to commodities traders and has created unique value for itself as a tool for its audience. This is a great example of a B2B company using Twitter to act like a media organization for its professional followers and seeing the kind of results that media organizations would be happy to have. So that's it for this presentation. Thanks for joining me. With the information you learned here, you should be ready to boldly strike out into the Twitter sphere. Follow me, send me a message, and I'll follow you back. It's the right thing to do. Here's my contact information if you'd like to reach me and discuss this topic or any topic regarding the evolution of social media in more detail. These are also two of my most recent books, and I hope that you'll take a look at them. Hoping to hear from you in the Twitter sphere. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Paul Gillen.